Good evening, guys. Hey, Mark Ludwig coming at you from St. Louis here, and doing it a little bit earlier than normal. Going to be heading off to Senator Koenig's house in a few minutes here. Meet with him and Representative Paul Kurtman, who's the chair of the Ways and Means Committees. Both of them very good supporters of shared parenting. Matter of fact, they're both coming to a shared parenting event we're having here in St. Louis in a few weeks. But I want to give a special message today. First off, I want to say congratulations to everyone and a big thank you to everyone. The Father's Rights Movement Facebook page just topped 400,000 likes as of about an hour and a half ago. So a big thank you to everyone who's been following the page, sharing it. Big thank you to everybody who put the team together. Thomas Fiddler, and I hate to mention names because I'm going to leave people out, but there's a lot of people who have worked behind the scenes, and I mean put in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. I see all the private messages that come in, and it's to the point literally hundreds a day, and totally staffed by volunteers who are giving up of their own time to respond to a lot of those private messages. So big thank you to everybody at the Father's Rights Movement, and thank you to everybody who supported the page. But 400,000 likes, that is definitely putting our imprint across this entire community. So onward now to 500,000, which I believe at the pace we're on should happen sometime before Christmas this year. I did want to give a special message this week, though. Last week I talked primarily to people outside the community, because there's actually three audiences that we're speaking to. The audience outside the community, those are the people who really don't know what's going on. And there's always a tendency for us to almost get mad at those people until we take a step back and realize a lot of us were those people. I'll admit, I was. 8 years ago, I did not understand the frustrations that all of us feel. So we've got to realize that we've got to use a totally different term, a totally different tone when we're speaking to people outside the community to draw them in. You can't beat them over the head and chase them away when they don't understand. Then there's the second audience, which is the inside community. These are the ones who have, unfortunately, caught on to everything that's been going on. They understand the story of what's going on, and we can definitely speak a little differently to the insiders. And then the third audience that we're speaking to is each other. And today I'm going to be talking primarily about the third, but really to everyone within the second community. As of right now, there's about 600,000, 700,000 people that are in one form or another following the community movement, whatever you want to call it. People that are following the shared parenting, and there's so many different issues, because I know it's not just about shared parenting. There's CPS that gets involved, there's the courts that gets involved, but under the umbrella of the family law reform type movement, there's about 600,000, 700,000 people actively following all the different Facebook pages, about 200 different Facebook pages, now with a total reach of an estimated 20 million people every week that are seeing different Facebook posts in one form or another. So with 20 million people seeing that, we're definitely making an imprint there, and people are definitely starting to notice. And as a result, people are watching. Now, that can be a good thing or that can be a bad thing. We want to make sure that we keep it on the good side. Because right now we're starting to be watched under the microscope. Now is when we're finally starting to make some progress. This past year, we had 27 different states who had considered different pieces of legislation. So now is when we're finally into the battle and we're starting to make some progress. When you're in the battle is not the time to be fighting within the ranks. So I'm going to be going through some different things tonight to make sure that we're not shooting people in our own foxhole. We've got enough enemies on the outside. We've needed supporters for years. Now that we're getting the supporters, we want to make sure that we don't implode from within. So I'm going to go through a bunch of different points here, and I hope everyone doesn't think that I'm just talking down to everyone. I'll just tell you, as we go through these points, I'll admit firsthand, I'm probably guilty of every single one of them. And we are, Laura. You have to realize, every one of us have gone through. I had a good talk with Thomas Fiddler one time, and we were both talking about the fact that for most of us, anytime you take someone's children away from them, that is a highly emotional type of an event. And as a result, all of us you go through a different range of emotions and different stages that you go through. So everybody watching this is probably at a different stage. So I'm going to give some ideas that I've come up with, not that I would come up with, I would say, that I've learned from different people like Stephen Covey and John Maxwell, and people that have done a very good job of leading and teaching and coaching people who are building teams. But I'm reminded this past week, I was talking to my pastor. There's a gentleman who goes to my church, a guy named Vince, and just one of the nicest guys you could ever imagine. A little while back, Vince was driving on his way to work one morning. And in St. Louis, I don't know how most of your cities are, but you get some of the major stretches of the highway where the exit ramps just get too clouded. So they end up putting these solid white lines that you're not supposed to pass once you pass that white line. And because otherwise cars would stop and could get rear-ended. Well, Vince was driving to work one morning, and as he's driving to work, he's coming around a corner which is approaching one of these exit ramps. They're already past the white line at this point. Solid white line where nobody's supposed to be going. As he curves the corner, the sun's in his eyes, can barely see. But apparently just before he got to that point, there was a white car that had stopped. Apparently they had just missed the point to cut off, and they just figured they were just going to stop and force their way into the merging lanes over there and get off the exit ramp. So they stopped, and they were trying, and nobody would let them in, obviously, because nobody wants to let somebody in like that. And if they miss their turn, they got to go around and wait and come back. But as a result, another car had stopped, and another car had stopped, and by the time Vince had seen it, it was too late. The sun shining in his eyes. He oversteered to try and miss it. Car flipped several times, and even though he was wearing his seat belt, his neck literally snapped. And Vince is now totally paralyzed from the neck down. Has to be in one of those wheelchairs where you have, he literally blows into something in the wheelchair to steer the wheelchair. I mean, no sensation in his arms, legs, anything like that. And a lot of people have asked him and his wife. The sad thing is that white car ended up driving away. We honestly don't think that the person in the car had any idea what they had caused behind them. We think that they had waited and finally realized they weren't going to get in and drove along. But by that time, the cars behind them had already stopped, and that was the one that Vince, oversteered to try and avoid. So we think that white car literally didn't even know what they were doing. And most of us hearing that story would think, man, I want to go after that white car. I want to get revenge to that person. And my pastor gave a great message last week when he talked about the fact, how many of us have done things like that white car, though? How many of us have seen a red light that we knew we shouldn't have gone into that intersection, but we were running late to an event or something, and so we sped up anyway? How many of us have had a situation like that, where we knew we weren't supposed to try and merge, but we did it anyway? The fortunate thing for us is we didn't cause an accident. Because so many times, all of us have been guilty of that, where something like that happens, and you think, what the pastor was talking about, and not to bring my own spirit. Oh, apologize for that. I was getting a call there. But all of us have been guilty of that. And the sad thing is that, we've all been guilty of things like that, so we can't try and accuse someone else. And right now, I'm going to be going through some rules, and I think all of us, to a degree, have been guilty of some of these types of things. So I want to let everybody know, first off, I am not in any way pointing fingers at any one particular person. I'm not accusing any, I am not using any specific instances. I'm just saying these are common things that destroy teams from within, and we can't have it. We are so close. 27 different states that worked on pieces of legislation this year. Missouri is getting darn close. I'm convinced next year is the year for Missouri. Michigan, to have the House Judiciary Committee pass 4691 last week, that was huge. So we are getting a lot of different bills, and I apologize for getting all these messages here, but we are getting so many different bills that are getting close. We've got to stay united. We've got to stay as a team. We've got to continue the fight. 400,000 likes now on this page alone. Guys, now is the time to really tighten up within the team. So let me give you a couple of ideas of different rules to keep us to make sure that we don't implode. As I said, I'm speaking to myself on every one of these too. But number one, never attack an individual personally. Always stick to the issue at hand. I'm about as hardcore conservative Republican as you can get. But I tell you what, I got some darn close friends that I would fight to the death for, and they would do the same thing for me, who are hardcore liberal Democrats. Why? Because we've always focused on the issue. We never, ever make it personal. You've got to make sure that you're doing that. And along that is the next point, which is no name calling, which obviously makes it personal. You always know someone has lost the logic to anything that they're doing if they resort to name calling or using foul language. I know some people use it in the way they talk, but still, especially when you're on Facebook public posts, you can't be doing that kind of thing. Next thing is exactly that, keeping disagreements private. So many times, and I'm not talking to anybody in particular here, but there's been so many times where we've seen people within the community just attacking somebody else. Guys, we are all we have right now. We are all our kids have to fight to try and get these laws changed, to try and make a difference. We can't be fighting ourselves while we're in the battle here. So if you have a disagreement with someone, please take it privately. don't post publicly about how terrible this person is and how you guys disagreed and share private messages, take screenshots of the private messages and put them publicly. There's no point for that. Just ignore them. If somebody's doing something absolutely totally wrong, just totally ignore them and move on. We've got too much to go on, because the sad thing is the majority of people reading those posts have no idea what's going on. They just read a couple of different posts from somebody who's basically accusing somebody of doing something in a response, and they're wondering, what did I miss? And now, instead of focusing on how can we get things changed, how can we get kids more time with their parents, they're off on these side splinter issues. So if you have a disagreement with someone, please go directly to them. Send a private message to them. And along that is the next point, is seek to understand. A lot of times, there really isn't that big of a difference going on there. It's just, especially when people are texting and making public posting comments, it's very, very, very hard to be able to try and convey everything that you're saying within a text message. So make sure that, try before you accuse someone, take a step back, put yourself in their shoes, and always try to remember, hey, we're on the same team. So give them the benefit of the doubt before you start attacking them. Next point, appreciate the differences. That's what makes a team work. All of us have different strengths, different weaknesses. I think within the organization here, we've got some, Philly Slim out in Denver, Colorado. If we had a picture of Philly, I can't wait till I can meet Philly firsthand, or personally, to have a picture of the two of us. We look just total opposites. I look like the biggest nerdy dork you could ever imagine. Always wearing a tie and everything like that. Always talking prim and proper. Philly has tattoos everywhere and all kinds of stuff. We look like the biggest opposites. But I'll tell you what, we're on the same team, and I know where he stands and he knows where I stand. And I know if I needed him, one phone call, Phil, I'd be there in a minute. And he knows the same thing for me. And the beauty of that is Philly can reach a different demographic that would never pay attention to someone like me. They would tune me out immediately. And I can reach a different demographic than Philly can. So by combining our efforts, man, it's amazing how we've multiplied. So appreciate the differences that we all have. And because we have differences, you can't always have your way, which is the next point, point number 6. You can't always have your way. If you've ever had board of directors meetings or been in discussions in boardrooms, you can't always have your way. You're just going to have to learn you can't do it. In Missouri right now, we've got the team of Jeremy and Linda and Kenneth and Scott, and it really is, it's a dream team. And one of my biggest passion issues is false allegations. And I'm really wanting to make sure that we can get some laws changed to where there's going to be repercussions for people who make false allegations intentionally, knowing that they're false allegations. And we brought it up at a team meeting, and the team decided, you know what, even though that's a good bill, right now isn't the time for that bill. We've got some other bills that we need to get passed before we can put something like that. So I brought it up to the team, but when the team decides now isn't the time for that, immediately I need to be a team player and say, you know what, let's support the team. We're going with rebuttable presumption. That's the first bill we're going for, and I'm going to back off until the team decides it's right. Yes, I'm still very passionate about false allegations and making sure that we get some laws changed to where there's some repercussions for somebody who does something like that. But right now isn't the time if the team agrees or something else. Point number 7 goes along with that. The team before your team. If the enemy's trying to enter your city and you're sitting trying to protect your own house, by the time they make it through the gates, you're not going to have a house left. You've got to help protect your city before you protect your house. Guys, we're trying to get bills passed for all of us, so you've got to make sure that you're a team player. Number 8, choose your battles. Ask yourself, every time you have a disagreement with somebody, is this really worth throwing out everything we've been fighting for the kids? And as I said, I've seen some people where they're going back and forth on Facebook, calling names and accusing people and everything like that. You can't have that. That's a distraction when we're trying to get some changes made for kids. Always try and remember, what is the most important battle? It's getting kids united back with their parents. So choose the battles that you have. Number 9, don't judge others by their actions, but yourself by your intentions. And we're all guilty of this, myself included. There's always been times where we want to point a finger at somebody and say, aha, you shouldn't be doing that, because we're judging them by their actions. And then we're trying to judge ourselves by our intentions. Well, there's times when all of us, our actions don't match up with our intentions. So give someone else the benefit of the doubt. Number 10, don't worry about who gets the credit. With this page, 400,000 people on the Father's Rights Movement as of an hour and a half ago. And yet I've never seen Thomas Fiddler stand up and say, I did this! Everyone, look at this! I started this movement. He just, and I don't know him real well. I've talked to him a few times on the phone, and I'm sure some of you have had disagreements with Thomas, but I just tell you what, everything that I've seen with Thomas, he's a team player. He's not out for glory. He's not saying, he wants all of us to bow down to him. So we've got to make sure that you remember, it's not about who gets the credit. It's about getting the job done. And number 11 is sort of the final one. It's the guiding principle behind all this, is keep your eye on the goal. The goal is uniting kids with their parents. So if everything that comes out of your mouth should be along that line. If it's arguing with someone else within the community, if it's arguing amongst one of ourselves, you got to stop it. Take it privately. Do a private message, or even better, get a phone and pick up the phone and call them. So many of these disputes could be settled if somebody would just pick up the phone and talk face to face. The other thing I strongly encourage everybody to do, and once again, I hope this doesn't come across like, I think I'm the answer man to everybody or something like that, but we've all got to commit to reading. I just have never seen anyone that's ever done anything great who wasn't a reader. When you look at the history of this country, at our republic, every one of the 56 signers of the Declaration, and you read the history, these people were phenomenal readers. And what these people had to do to get access to books was unbelievable. But yet they were all readers. It's just like going to the gym. If you don't use your muscles, you'll use it or lose it. That's true with our minds too. We've got to be actively growing. If we want to go from where we are to where we want to be, we need new input, wisdom, and knowledge. To get that, we need books. We need to keep working on self-improvement. I would encourage everybody, if you're wanting to be a team player in this movement, to read Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Leaders. Read books like John Maxwell. For sure, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Probably one of the most timeless business books of all time for dealing with people and relationships. Those 3 for sure. I would hope everyone has read at least once, but I encourage you to read them again. But make sure that we're all continue to work on growing ourselves. It's kind of hard to point fingers at someone else when we're working on ourselves. Bottom line, guys, we're gaining ground. This isn't the time to be shooting ourselves in the foot or in the head. We got 400,000 people on this page alone. If you had all the pages up, an estimated 200 pages, 20 million reach every single week, where people are hearing about the message of uniting kids with their parents. Ray, I'm in St. Louis, by the way. I just saw somebody, where is this guy from? Matter of fact, in St. Louis, if you know people in St. Louis, send them my way. Mark Ludwig, send them my personal Facebook page. I'm having an event here in St. Louis in 3.5 weeks. Guys, it's going to be pretty darn impressive. We've got senators, we've got state reps, we've got media personalities, we've got some very well-known business personalities, best-selling authors. There's people from all around the St. Louis area that are coming to this event. It is going to be huge. Highly, highly impressive. Now, I want to clarify, too, this is a positive event. This isn't the event where you're going to try and be a protester. Do not show up if you want to protest, okay? We have a seat at the table. These state reps are not only listening to us, they're actively working with us right now. So we want to show them that, hey, we know how to work with organizations. So please, if you know anyone in St. Louis, now contact me as soon as possible, because it's very possible we may have to turn people away. I don't know how big of a venue to get for this. There's no doubt in my mind it's going to be a standing room only, the way things are coming in so far. But if you know people in St. Louis, please send them my way. I do have a separate Facebook page for the event. The Facebook page, I believe, is Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. Somehow, if you Google that in Facebook, you'll be able to come to it, and there's a Facebook page for that. But that'll be a combination of the Father's Rights Movement and Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. Once again, it's not about who gets the credit, it's about getting the job done. But we are having that event on July 17th. It's a Monday night here in St. Louis. We're going to be doing some darn impressive Facebook Lives that night, because we're going to be coming live with some people like different state senators, different state reps that are going to be live on that night. So it's going to be pretty impressive. Last thing, we do have the database, and like I said, this is a database for all the organizations to use. We're going to be sending out about a once-a-month newsletter. If you are not a part of the database, you need to go, please, as soon as this video ends, which is in another minute or two, afesp.com. That's Americans for Equal Shared Parenting, AFESP.com. That is not a group to try and add another group on to the Fathers' Rights Movement. There's 8 million different organizations. We don't need to keep adding groups. This has a very specific intent to this, to work directly in association with the existing groups out there, of which we have plenty already. Okay? But what we need is a database so that when we do have bills coming up in Alabama or Georgia or Michigan or North Carolina or Colorado or Texas, that we've got an organization that we can, in stealth mode, send emails out for calls to action. So we need you on that list. If you're supporting shared parenting, please go to AFESP.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there'll be a white thing that'll say subscribe. Click on that. We need your email, city, and state are the main things that we need. But guys, I'll tell you what, we're making progress. Thanks once again to everybody who supported the Fathers' Rights Movement. 400,000 people have liked that page so far. I believe it's going to top 500,000 within the next 4 months at the rate we're going. Thanks once again to Thomas Fiddler for starting things off, and Linda Moore, and once again, I hate to mention names because I know I'm leaving people out. I sincerely don't mean to. But thanks again to all the volunteers. And there's a lot of volunteers on that page that night after night after night are spending time sending private messages back. So thanks again, everybody. I appreciate you, and we will be back next Monday night at the regular time, 7:30.